Good morning. I'm Savitri Dias, and today we will be talking about connecting curriculum for language and literacy development. Topic 7. Language is a tool for communication, and that is in thoughts, ideas, and feelings. Since language is an instrument of thought for children, it can function in various ways. A child uses his or her communication skills to enhance their problem solving, understanding of concepts, classifying, categorizing, and organizing skills. By introducing appropriate measures and techniques used in language development, teachers can help children to optimize language and literacy learning and communication fluency. Language and literacy development in early childhood begins as early as 2 years. Children begin to verbalize their experience and articulate their feelings and ideas. Young children can achieve language fluency through an adult's guidance. And experience gained during the early years helps the early childhood learners to master language proficiency. Development of language literacy in early childhood. The foundation for literacy is language development. Good and profound language proficiency is the core factor in determining the ability of a child's communication with his or her peers and friends. A child's language development begins as early at the age of 1 year, and as he or she reaches the age of 7, they should have mastered the language of communication. Development of language varies from year to year and improves as the child grows older. When we talk about language development activities according to a specific age group, we can see the language development and capabilities at the ages of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And at the age 1, you can see the development and capabilities. There are many. And able to focus on a book or toy for about 2 minutes, and saying 2 or 3 words to label a person or object, and trying to imitate simple words at year 1. And some of the developments at year 2 is that a child will know about 50 words in 24 months and will understand the spatial concepts such as in, on, and pronouns such as you, me, her, and use descriptive words such as big and happy. And speech becomes more accurate but may still leave off ending sounds, and strangers may not be able to understand much of what is said. And at year 3, you can see a rapid increase in vocabulary, and it may average about 50 to 60 words per month. That is subjective to the child's own ability and also the surroundings. And able to use nouns and verbs in speech to express needs. For example, want toy cat. So although the phrase is not a perfect phrase. At year 4, you can see that a child becomes more talkative and will love to recite songs, stories, and enjoy rhyming. And also the sentences grow longer, and verbalizing experiences and hands-on daily activities. Coding colors, numbers, and letters verbally, and also likes to reinvent new words. By year 5, he or she could recite poems of about 2 to 3 lines, and most 4 lines, and will talk freely and like to interrupt conversations of others. The sentences will become longer, and he or she will be able to express feelings, and also verbal examples like no, I don't want to go, and also enjoy silly language examples, that is maybe something like itchy bitchy 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 bitchy. We won't understand, but he has a meaning there, and able to differentiate single words and plural words, and also describe artwork verbally, whether it is beautiful, ugly, or scary. And that we can see those developments in a normal child, that is according to the specific age group. So if you just look at this slide, you can see the stages in a child's language development. At birth, at 6 months, what they do, and at 1 year, the first words, 2nd year, phrases, 3rd year, sentences, 4th year, storytelling, and by the 5th year, we'll be using grammar, which is almost adult-like. Talking about literacy development, what is literacy? That is the ability to read, write, and think. However, before a child learns to read and write, he or she needs to develop the proper building blocks for literacy development, and that is the ability to speak, listen, understand, observe, and draw. And a child should be given the opportunities to use language in both spoken and written form. Communication, reading, and rhyming also play an important role in literacy development. And here we can see bonding and interacting with a child through communication helps create a sense of security in him and a desire for him or her to interact with the teacher in return. Singing teaches children about sound intonation. Singing also introduces children to music, stories, and the local culture. This prepares children for speaking and socializing at any situation. And also, reading can be introduced from birth onwards. Children who have had experiences with language and print from an early age are more likely to develop a solid literacy foundation. And rhyming teaches children the connection between the sound of a word and how it is written, which is often loved and enjoyed by the kids. When we talk about ways to encourage language development, we can see that language has to be nurtured, practiced, and encouraged. The development of language in early childhood education should be of top priority to enable children to grow and communicate fluently. If you just refer to the following ways that will encourage language development. So the teacher as an instructor. Teacher plays an important role in guiding children, either one-to-one or in small groups, to teach literacy concepts and skills. It is the responsibility of a teacher to encourage children to talk and listen to each other at play and work. Also, create and provide opportunities for children to talk and listen, and act as a role model to children. Listen to what he or she says. Do not expect children to listen to others if you do not listen to them. Also, inquire and stimulate. Teachers must encourage conversation among children by urging them to ask each other questions and engage in meaningful conversations. Teachers must also ask open-ended questions so that children are involved in discussion, which will give them opportunities to practice. And again, we can inquire and stimulate by encouraging conversation among children, by urging them to talk to each other and question and engage in meaningful conversations. Teachers must also ask open-ended questions so that children are involved in discussion, which will give them the opportunity to practice. And also acknowledge, accept, and celebrate language diversity in children. It means that educators must accept the legitimacy of a child's first language, respect and value home culture, promote and encourage the active involvement and support of all families, including extended and non-traditional family units. Also, provide activities and experience. Teachers should also provide developmentally appropriate activities and experience involving language and literacy. And also, teachers must encourage children to speak and use complete sentences when speaking. Also, establish a conducive atmosphere. That means a relaxed and comfortable atmosphere stimulates children to talk freely with others without having the fear and uneasiness of speaking. Use of phonetic awareness is also very important. For example, phonetic awareness such as songs, finger play, poems, rhymes, and alliteration are powerful variables of achieving success in learning to read. When you think of grammatical errors in language development, in early childhood, grammatical errors, particularly verbs and pronouns, are very typical. So do not put too much emphasis on grammatical errors, but rather the content used in a speech. Use specific words when giving instructions or talking. That is important. Specific words used when talking, such as please keep your blue shirt in the second drawer, rather than telling them to please keep the shirt in the drawer. So be more specific and give specific instructions. The usage of specific words can help children to expand their vocabulary as well as understand the meaning of each word. This is also important, that is, verbalize children's action. That means teachers can verbalize children's activities, such as verbalizing a drawing of a boy playing a kite by saying, Jimmy is flying a kite in the paddy field. And also help children to understand what is spoken. language and literacy development does not only encourage children to listen, speak, read, and write, but also to understand the meaning of words or phrases that have been spoken, written, or read. And also, create a print-rich environment, because learning a language is not limited within the classroom. Billboards, canned food labels, doorways, charts, calendars, or any other printed material can be tools for children to start their language learning journey. For example, even before a child can read, parents should read instructions aloud from a recipe book while pointing to the ingredients for cooking. And also family involvement. Family members should give support, exposure, and encouragement by providing a literate environment for their children to take part in language building activities and experience sharing. If you look at this graph, you can see language and literacy development activities, where you can see some of the activities that can be done. For example, you tell me a rhyming word and tell me a word with the same beginning sound. What is the end sound? Clap the syllables, and a spin and tell wheel like this will make language learning interesting for the children. And listening and speaking aspects of developing a language. Also, language development can be strengthened and extended through the process of listening and speaking. Skills provided by these two tools help to empower language proficiency in early childhood. Listening. Listening skills have to be developed and taught in the early childhood years. According to Jalongo 1995, listening is active and not passive. Children must be taught to learn better than to learn more. Some of the listening skills included are auditory perception, auditory discrimination, auditory memory, auditory association. And for example, when you say auditory perception, it is the ability to receive and understand what is heard. And auditory discrimination means ability to make sense of discriminations on what they hear. Auditory memory is the ability to store the memory of sequence of sounds and words that are heard in a sentence. And auditory association is the ability to associate words or sounds with objects experienced during play, ideas or feelings. And when we talk of speaking or oral language, we think of a strong literacy which is built through oral language, including reading and writing. Writing helps to enhance reading, while oral language or speaking polishes both. And children learn to speak by interaction with the environment and the people around them, who love to communicate and talk with them. Teachers are encouraged to be good listeners and inspire children to speak and communicate frequently. And activities for listening and speaking help children to improvise growth in listening and speaking skills. And here are several activities which are listed. A plan for a brainstorming activity. Then you can take note that all questions and answers given by children are correct and acceptable. And also create simple question and answer games in which the children sit in a circle and pass round a ball until the music stops. The person who has the ball will have to answer a question in complete sentences. Also, another activity, place a few toys and objects in a sack. Allow the child to pick up any object from the sack without looking at it. Whatever toy or object picked up by the child, he has to describe it in proper and complete sentences. For example, I found a blue ball with a picture of Thomas and his friend. Then another one, choose a sequence of 3 words which start with the same consonant and a word of different consonant. For example, run, rotate, rain and plate. Say the words aloud and request a child to choose one word which sounds different from others. Then listening to sounds of animals is one such activity that children love. Without having to say much, they will try to imitate the sounds they have heard. As a teacher, join the fun imitating the sounds while asking to identify the animals and construct a sentence. You will be amused to hear the sentences that children can construct about animals. Teach the children to make scrapbooks. Cut pictures from any magazine, old books or newspapers. Paste and glue those pictures in a book, leaving some space for children to write something about the pictures. What are the benefits of language experiences during early childhood? Language experience approach has given benefits to children to enhance their communication and language skills and literacy. Among the benefits are confident as language users. Children become more confident trying out new forms of language, such as reciting poems, rhyme, and even writing their own lyrics. And growing vocabulary. The increase in number of words in a sentence shows that a child's vocabulary is expanding. And a growing awareness and knowledge of print concept. Pictures and printed materials are likely to attract attention of the children once they have started to read and communicate. And also, literacy awareness carry meaning that can be easily understood and shared among children. A child becomes more alert about his or her surroundings and tend to communicate and include phrases he or she encounters on a daily basis. Benefits of language experiences during early childhood. An increase in growing awareness of text genre. Example, the differences between a narrative and recount. And develop a growing understanding that words and pictures together can communicate meaning and add more color and meaning to their lives. Speaking of skills and concept for language development, as a child's first teacher, you are given the responsibility to give the most appropriate language skills development to a 3 to 4-year-old child. Thus, it is helpful to know what basic listening and speaking skills the child should be learning and mastering the language at the age of 3 or 4. The following are language development skills that should be acquired by a child for him or her to grow up as an individual with excellent and profound skills in language and communication. A. Listening skills. The child should be able to understand most of what is said and follow directions with at least 2 steps. 2. Understand directive words like top, bottom, big and little. 3. Recognize when words rhyme. 4. Hear and respond to someone calling to him from another room. 5. Hear the television or radio at normal volumes. 6. Notice and respond to sounds in the environment, such as a car horn, clock alarm, or the beeping of a kitchen appliance. Then, speaking skills. A child should be able to 1. Speak in complete sentences of 4 or more words at a time. 2. Talk easily and fluently without stuttering or repeating words or syllables. 3. Recite or sing familiar songs or nursery rhymes. And 4. Correctly name colors, people, objects, and categorize objects. 5. Speak clearly enough for strangers to understand. 6. Use most speech sounds such as l, r, s, sh, h, z, and th may not be fully mastered until the age of 7 or 8. Use appropriate verb tenses. And 8. Use the pronouns I, you, and m correctly. Activities for the development of communication and literacy. The foundation for building a child's skill towards literacy involves learning to speak, listen, read, comprehend, observe, draw, and write. Activities such as talking, singing, playing, sound and word games helps in establishing a good foundation for early childhood learners. Talking and singing with children could also teach them about sounds and how this comes together to form a language. And by teaching language games and songs, you will be helping a child to develop strong listening and speaking skills. And reading helps to develop a child's vocabulary, his or her ability to listen and comprehend and understand the purpose of print. It also helps to culture a positive attitudes towards reading. From an early age, children love to write like their older siblings or parents. Writing or scribbling and drawing helps the child develop the fine motor skills she needs for writing with pencils and pens later. It also helps her to recognize and remember letter shapes. Here we can see some of the activities, reading and literary activities, you can see that young children love rhyme, rhythm and repetition, as well as patterned and alphabet books which have bright colored words and pictures. A teacher can point a finger at a word while reading and make sure that the child follows it. And children love reading the same book over and over again. So take this opportunity to ask the child what he or she has read. And you can take the children on a field excursion to the public library and help the child choose a book he or she hopes to read. At school age, you can see in the classroom, you can take turns to read a storybook with a child. It is more interesting than reading the whole book alone. So this will help nurture his or her interest to read at an early age. And during outings or outdoor class activities, point out to signboards and street signs such as stop, bus stop, etc. And encourage children to read the names of items at the supermarket or a bookstore, as there are many big and colorful posters which can easily attract their attention. And talking of drawing and writing literacy activities, you can also, before school age, you can at the age of about 4 years, children are required to master holding a pen, pencil or crayon. Encourage them to write or scribble on a birthday card and always appreciate their artwork. And use Play-Doh to make letters or alphabets. At school age, encourage children to make a scrapbook using pictures cut out from magazines and ask them to label the objects clearly and beautifully. And shuffle some cards, and on each card is written the alphabet in like A, R, D and C, and ask the children to rearrange the cards to form a meaningful phrase.